everyone, and welcome to the 13 Club podcast. This is episode 8, post-mortem episode. In the post-mortem episodes, we just kind of discuss odds and ends that we find throughout the week, or extra information that we found on the topics that we talked about last week. I'm Spectre.
I'm Miramay.
And thank you for joining us. So what do you have today?
So for my post-mortem contribution, last week in episode 8, I did Crybaby Lane, the lost Nickelodeon movie. It was kind of an internet mystery, lost airing that did eventually get solved. The movie was found and it was rebroadcast and it was kind of cool. And during the period of time that it was lost and people were kind of scrambling for information about it, one of the things people said was that it was based on this legend of Crybaby Lane, which I looked up. I do not think it is at all related to the movie that they ended up putting out, but who knows, maybe some draft of the film was loosely based on this legend.
Okay.
But I just wanted to share it with you guys because I think it's interesting and I like spooky legends.
I do too. We're kind of all about that here.
I feel like people are going to think I'm sponsored, but I'm not. But I have to give credit, again, to NorthCarolinaGhosts.com. I mentioned them in the last episode because I mentioned briefly that was where I found the Crybaby Lane legend posted. And again, I said it last week, but I legitimately did not expect to end up on NorthCarolinaGhosts.com again. It just kind of happened. But shout out to them.
You should contact them and let them know that you're super thrilled with their content. I'm sure they'd love to hear that.
I did, because I mentioned them briefly last episode that I saw they had a Patreon, and I contributed to that, and then I think they saw, when I signed up for Patreon, I also sent them a email on their, site's contact form, asking them about their Crybaby Lane stuff, and they were, when I contacted them, or they emailed me back, and I said, well, I do a podcast, we just started, we've only got a few episodes, but I, name dropped you guys, and they were super excited about it. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
maybe one day, maybe one day we'll all meet up and, explore a spooky place together.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, it would be. They
seem like really, really cool people, and they put a lot of work into it. So, North Carolina Ghosts, Crybaby Lane, they went next level because not only did they have the legend, but for this one they did a segment called The Scary Truth, which is the truth behind the legend.
Nice.
So, the legend of Crybaby Lane. Crybaby Lane is a creepy little stretch of deserted grass off Western Boulevard in Raleigh, North Carolina, with a sad, scary story tied to it. The story begins in the middle of the last century, when what's now called Crybaby Lane was the site of a Roman Catholic orphanage. The orphanage was the home to a few dozen young boys and girls who were raised by the priests, as had been happening there since the orphanage had been founded in the early 1900s.
Is it Friday the 13th?
It's Friday the 13th every day for me.
Yeah. 13 Club.
Hashtag 13 Club. We can assume these orphans lived as orphans did in those days, going to school to learn a useful trade, and once a week during the summers being taken down to swim in the pool at nearby Pullen Park. Since this was a Catholic home, some of the older boys would be studying for the priesthood. For those children without parents, there weren't many options back then. It may not have been a completely happy life, but it was more than it could have been. This all came to a tragic end one night in 1958 when a fire broke out in the orphanage dormitory. The fire spread quickly through the building, and by the time the sleeping children were aware of the smoke and the heat filling the hallways of their only home, it was too late. When the fire department arrived, the building had already been gutted, reduced to burnt beams and flame-broken bricks. Many of the children burned to death in the flames. Months after the fire, when after what remained of the burned orphanage had been torn down and hauled away, the city began receiving complaints from the neighbors that the smell of smoke was still strong in the air, as if the fire was still burning. The smell was so strong that some people would choke when they walked into the field, as if their own lungs were filling up with smoke. This happened even though the new grass had already covered up where the building once stood. But the smell of smoke was only part of it. There were also the voices. The voices came out of the air, quietly at first, then growing louder. They were the voices of children. Children crying, wailing in fear, sadness, and pain. The screams of the orphaned children who had died in the fire could still be heard. Now, some of the neighbors thought it was just their minds playing tricks on them. They had been there the night of the fire and seen and heard these horrible things. They thought they just couldn't get the awful memories out of their heads. But time passed, and the people who'd been there that night all died or moved away. But still the acrid smell of smoke lingered, and the cries of the children could still be heard. If you go to this place yourself, you'll see that most of the houses around the field where the orphanage once stood have been abandoned. The place where the orphanage stood is now an empty field. If you hunt through the grass, you'll be able to find the cornerstone, all that's left of the old orphanage. And after you've stood in the field for a few minutes, you'll start to notice that the place has a strange, distinct smell. It's the odor of smoke and burning wood. And if you stay a few more minutes, you'll begin to hear something strange in the air. Awful, unearthly sounds. The cries of children in fear and pain. Children who are lost, but still never able to leave the only place on earth that they ever knew as a home. And not many people will stay much longer than that in the empty field that's come to be called Crybaby Lane. The end.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a nice, classic, spooky, haunted orphanage location story. Not at all anything that was in the content of that movie, so I don't know where people who say that they were basing it off of that legend were getting it from, but maybe there's another Crybaby Lane that I don't know about. Maybe.
I didn't watch the movie, but I did, look at the summaries, and I heard what you said, and it doesn't sound similar at all.
Not at all. And I think that, that movie also takes place in, Ohio or Indiana or something.
The whole thing is just off.
They done goofed. But yeah, that is the Legend of Crybaby Lane, and if you are interested in the truth behind the facts, you should check out the website and read it for yourself.
Yeah, plug in that. I mean, we're not sponsored again.
Yeah,
but
we're not sponsored by anything.
But we are open to make friends. So
always,
we love your content.
All right, what do you have, Spectre?
Okay, so I went back into that thread, the one that Nova sent me, where I found out about Skidmore. And I just sort of sorted it by best comments. And I haven't read these in advance because I think sometimes it's more fun for us to experience stuff for the first time. So I thought I'd just go through a few and see if anything sticks here.
Let's get some authentic reactions.
Yeah. So the first one is from Real Abstract Squid 2. That's a good name. When my brother and I were 10 or 12 respectively, our family went on a hike through the cemetery and into the woods not far from our house. My brothers and I would explore these woods every day, even camped in them before. We knew it like the back of our hands. Anyway, as the family hits our usual spot by the creek halfway through, brother 1 and I said we'd be back in a few. We wanted to wander off further up the creek, so we did. We came across a very large hill that we had never seen before. It was littered with what looked like someone's worldly possessions. They had turned a house upside down, shook out the contents, took the house, and left. There were tons of painted X's on the trees, showing someone intended to cut them down at some point. We poked around for a few, and then we thought we'd heard our mom hollering at us. So we turned tail and walked maybe 20 feet back down the hill to where our parents were. The entire encounter was maybe 45 minutes long on our end. As soon as our mom saw us, we got the beating of a lifetime. We had actually been gone almost 4 hours. She never saw us walk up any hill and remembered seeing us meandering down the straight path by the creek, not turning up a hill that was 20 feet away. She and her husband and our other brother combed the woods for 4 hours screaming our names, and I couldn't find hide nor tail of us. We pleaded our case and even tried showing her the hill. Surely she was messing with us. So we stomped up to turn off for the hill, and it was gone. Nowhere to be seen. For years we explored those woods, determined to find that fucking hill. We covered miles and miles of off-path woods. As we got older, we mapped it out. To this day, that hill does not exist. We never found it again. Never found the weird furniture, toys, clothes, and other household items that were scattered across that hill, and never met anyone in the area that even had a clue about it. We probably just wandered way further than we went to, but I always found it weird that we never found that hill again.
I actually, when you sent me this list initially, I remember reading this one, and it gives me chills. I really, really like it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. There's like literally 70 replies on it, so it was popular.
What could anyone have to say? I wonder if there's anyone who's like, that happened to me too.
Oh, God. I don't know. I'll look later. Because
that reminds me a lot of how a lot of the responses to the Stairs in the Woods stories that I did back in like 2 or 3. There's a subreddit that's for that, and you know, the basis of it is creepypastas and stories, but if you go to that subreddit, there are a lot of people that are like, I was out in the woods when I was a kid, and I would find these weird stairs, and then they would be gone next time I'd go back out, and stuff like, and of course people can lie on the internet, but like, the amount of people that claim that makes me think at least some of them, it might be true. I don't know.
So 3 of my growing up years, 3 I feel like crucial growing up years, elementary school years, I was living in Nederland, Colorado, which I've teased before that I will eventually talk about Nederland, Colorado, because it was a very interesting and spooky time for my family. But we didn't have a backyard, we just had a forest and a lake. And I feel like, for the most part, aside from like the weird people in the town, the only stories I have are about bears and mountain lions. So I feel, where were my stairs?
I didn't have, sorry, this is totally diverging from your topic.
No, go for it.
When I was little, I was definitely in elementary school too, but I don't remember exactly how old. I would spend a lot of time in the summer at my grandparents' house on my dad's side. And they had a house and like a sort of sizable piece of land, you know. Mm-hmm. It seemed huge when I was a kid, but it's really just like a very oversized, very, very oversized lawn. And then behind that was some woods that used to be a pretty heavily wooded area. But as I got older, a lot of the trees got cut down and stuff, and they put up buildings. But when I was a kid, it was pretty heavily wooded. And I spent a lot of time playing in there, and I went pretty far back into the woods one day, and it was probably the furthest I'd ever gone. And my younger brother was with me. He's 3 years younger than me. He probably would have been in like early elementary school, and I was probably in later elementary school. But we found a building back there. It looked like a house, but it was tall and narrow. Mm-hmm. Like instead of, you know, kind of a rectangle this way, it was a rectangle this way.
Okay.
And it had 2 or 3 floors, and it looked really badly damaged. It looked like it had a fire or something. And we were kind of contemplating whether we should go up to it or get any closer to it. And then on, I guess, what would be the second floor, we saw a face stick its head out of the window and then pop back in. And we fucking beat it out of there. And ran back into my grandparents' backyard. We ran through the backyard up to the back door. And we didn't go that far in the woods again. But when I got a little older, I was probably in high school, I went back out there and I was like, man, do you remember that time we were there and we saw that house with that face? And my brother's like, I have no memory of this at all.
No!
So I went back out there and I went looking for the house. And there's a building where I remember seeing that house, but it's not the same building at all. So either I totally misremembered it, which I guess is possible, but it's like burned into my brain. So
it looks like you need to make a comment.
I know.
And then you can be like, if you want to hear me say this out loud, listen to my fucking podcast.
Yeah.
Did you know I have a podcast?
If you're listening to it, you probably do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that
was a good story.
Thing. Though I feel like it's one of those things. It's like the one I told last postmortem about the creepy lady walking back from the grocery store. I feel like anytime I tell a story like this, no one's gonna believe me.
I have a kind of story like that, and I'll read like maybe 1 or 2 more of these, and then I'll tell you it because it's related to my workplace.
Ooh, okay.
And something weird happened to me today.
Yeesh. All right, I'm ready.
Okay, so this one's I want to say reconstruct, but it's recon SCT. Many years ago, myself and 2 of my best friends decided to go for a day of mountain biking at Snowshoe in southern West Virginia. West Virginia. Now, this was way before the days of GPS, So we were kind of doing this by some half-assed directions and an old map. But the point is that we got very lost. Sometime along the way, we ended up in this very tiny little town, and we figured we would ask for directions. It was absolutely deserted. I'm talking not a single soul to be seen anywhere. We parked the truck and split up looking for someone. Never split up. Now,
don't do that.
This was around 9 or 10 a.m., so not exactly the ass crack of dawn, mind you. We went to the post office, nobody. We went to the only bar in town, which was unlocked, unattended, with music playing, but not a single soul present. We went business to business, and walked the streets, and after about 25 minutes, finally one old guy, who just seemed to appear out of nowhere in the middle of town, was walking alone. The first question we had wasn't even to ask for directions. It was, where the hell is everyone? And he replied, well, I guess folks around here don't really get up much till around noon. We asked him for directions to Snowshoe, and he pointed to the road we came in on and said to go that way about 10 miles and make a right, and we'd find the interstate. We left quickly. We all had a very bad sense of unease about the whole thing. As we left, we were about 5 miles down the road and hit a lady dressed up in a state road uniform standing in the middle of a very long straightaway holding a stop sign. When we approached her...
I hope they didn't literally hit her.
No. When we approached her, she turned the sign from slow to stop. We asked what was going on. She stated there was road construction ahead. And we told her that what had just happened, and she just sort of started laughing at us and said, those people in that town are kind of strange, but let it slide. So we actually started talking to her, waiting for a line of traffic to come from the opposite direction, and we ended up talking to her for about 45 minutes to an hour, just shooting the shit. Kind of got lost in the conversation. Not one single vehicle ever approached from the other direction or behind us. Eventually she said, well, I guess it's clear now and y'all can go ahead. And slowly turned the sign from stop to slow and motioned for us to go ahead. We went straight ahead, the only direction you could possibly go, for the next 30 some odd miles, and didn't see any signs of construction, state road workers, or maintenance going on at all. She said no vehicle. We figured she had no vehicle, and we figured she was a flag woman dropped off by some crew up ahead. And after the encounter with the town and this woman, we'd had enough and called it quits. We turned on the interstate as soon as we found it and headed north for home. Every single one of us still remembers this whole encounter in vivid detail to this day. I asked my friend about it, and actually about 3 months ago at his wedding, and it still freaks him out.
That's a really weird one. Did they mention what the name of the town was at all? Or did they just say Southern West Virginia?
Yeah.
I wonder if Pulp knows anything about that.
Biking at Snowshoe in southern West Virginia. But it was near that because they were trying to get to Snowshoe.
I'm going to ask him about that.
Yeah. Pulp is from...
Pulp added.
Yeah, he's from West Virginia. And we had a great, one-time cabin trip there, all of us. That was fun.
It was a very nice weekend.
Here's another one.
You got another one?
Yeah, literal 9. My grandparents had a big farm when I was growing up, and all of the grandkids would help work it over the summer when we were out of school. Anytime we saw a rabbit, we were supposed to get it with a hoe or grab the shotgun.
No.
I was around 12 or so, and I saw a little rabbit in the beans, and I didn't want my grandfather to see it, so I tried to chase it off. Good man.
That's like a precious sentence.
Yeah.
I saw a little rabbit in the beans.
And so I tried to chase it off because I didn't want my grandfather to see it. I followed it into the brush and on the land, and for whatever reason, I just kept following it because I lose sight of them pretty quickly once they hit the brush. I kept following it until what was clearly an old barn ruin. Oh, I love this.
Already.
These are pretty normal to happen upon where I'm from, and they're fun to look around inside, so I went in. It was weirdly kept up very well, with antique tools in great shape and fresh hay. I worried I had crossed into a neighbor's property, so I hightailed it out of there. I asked my grandfather about it, and he said our land went way far past what I had described, and I couldn't have left our land in the short amount of time I was gone. So he followed me out there, and we couldn't find it. I checked every summer I worked there and never found it again. Not creepy, but it always drove me crazy, wondering where that stupid barn went.
It's a little creepy.
Yeah, it seems like there's a theme here. And,
like
these are voted by best, so, like, these are... Reddit
Right.
likes missing buildings and stuff, apparently.
What was the name of the original thread again? Places that shouldn't exist? Or...
It is called Serious. It's in Ask Reddit.
Okay.
Eerie towns, disappearing diners, and creepy gas stations. What's your true, unexplained story of being in a place that shouldn't exist?
Gotcha.
Nova read me one that was weird, and I just searched a keyword and I found it, so this will be the last one I read.
I want to hear it.
I was just like, it's not, like, super scary, but it was just like, what?
I want it.
So this is Sweet Rhyme Pure Reason. It says, when I was about 12, my mom and I were traveling cross-country to move. We were staying the night in Missouri.
That's always a bad sign. Sorry if you're from Missouri.
Well, like, we've just had 2 episodes in a row where we talked about creepy Missouri.
I know.
At a typical roadside hotel next to an Applebee's. So we went in for dinner. It was packed, despite us being one of the only guests at the hotel, so we sat up at the bar. We noticed something weird after a few seconds. Every single person had a glass of milk in front of them. Even the dudes around the bar. Nothing else, just a tall glass of milk. Someone opened the fridge under the center bar, and we just saw gallons of milk. The bartender took our orders and brought us each a glass of milk, without us asking for anything to drink. It was so fucking weird. My mom told me not to drink it.
No, dude.
On our way back to our room, my mom stopped at the front desk and asked the woman working there, half jokingly, half concerned, why everyone drinks so much milk in this town. The woman said she had no idea what she was talking about and just moved on. When we were putting our leftovers in the mini fridge, there was like 10 cartons of milk. No brand, just the word milk. In black lettering. It was a weird place, and I've never been able to figure that out. And then there's an edit, and it says, I haven't read the edit before.
Oh, okay.
This happened 17 years ago, but it was pretty formative. It was a pretty formative experience during a really weird road trip. So I recently posted this account about a different strange hotel experience we had in Texas. So, A, the Applebee's and hotel were both off I-70. I always remembered it being Missouri, but a family member of mine seems to think it was in another state, maybe Kansas. B, I had a glass of water along with my milk, and the water at the hotel was just fine. When my mom said something like, oh, no thanks, water is fine, when the bartender sent down a glasses of milk in front of us, I remember he sort of chuckled and shook his head like she was joking. Edit 2. Until my mother passed away last year, this was one of the key stories we trot out at dinner parties and family gatherings. I'm sure that over the years, additions and subtractions were made to the story. That's just what happens over time. This thread isn't about dismantling posts and searching for the ultimate truth, but if it is, it's certainly not the place for me. I don't really want anyone to find out what dang Applebee's took its place. This took place in, because it's not a special story anymore. If I keep racking my brain trying to search for tiny details from a decade ago, I'd do us all a disservice. Let's keep an open mind together. That's the best part about these threads. Belief in something weird and inexplicable and one of the most fun aspects of Reddit. Thanks, Mercury Crust, for such a fun thread. I love these posts.
Cool.
Yeah.
Also, as someone who actively does not drink milk, that is really unsettling.
Well, you cannot.
Well, I cannot, yes.
Yeah.
I cannot and do not drink milk.
So, is there anything else you wanted to add? I feel like I've been talking a lot.
No, I think that's good. Those were all really good stories, and I'm glad I got to hear most of them. I felt like I was talking over you multiple times, so...
No, I think we're always over-paranoid that we're, like, offending each other in some way. But I guess maybe that's why we work well. I just will talk briefly about the creepy lady at work.
Yes.
Okay, so I work for a startup company. I'm not going to name the company because that's weird. And we work out of a home office. And I do video editing and whatnot for them. And I do, like, some weird hours. Like, sometimes I'll come in, like, 9 to 2. Sometimes I'll just, my schedule's pretty flexible. And I just do whatever they need and whatever works for me. So I've been lately doing the 9 to 2 shift, and I've been leaving like at 2 o'clock every day. And the first time I noticed this, there's this like really creepy woman. At first, like, I just thought she was rude because she has a baby in a stroller, and she's like staring at the so to put this in context, the home office, we were working in a luxury apartment before because the CEO is fancy, but we moved into like a house in a neighborhood, and it seems like everyone in that neighborhood is just like incredibly put off by us, but all we do is just stay inside the house. Like, even the people that live there, they just like stay home. But the first time I noticed something was we immediately got yelled at for parking on the street, which I don't think that's allowed because it's like whatever, you know, like it's the street.
Is it like in a neighborhood?
Yeah.
They might have a neighborhood association that, like,
it could be.
I don't think it's right or it's weird, but I know someone that lived in a neighborhood like that, and if they couldn't have more than like 2 cars in the driveway at any time unless it was a holiday.
That's ridiculous.
Like, unless you could prove it was a holiday and you had family coming to visit. Like, no more than 2 cars in the driveway, and if you had any more cars than that, they had to be in a garage, and you couldn't have anyone park on the street. But anyway.
I'm pretty certain that when they rented the place that they never were told of any of these parking rules, and it is just like a public street. It's not, like, the street runs past the neighborhood.
Okay.
But
anyway.
Yeah, we got yelled at for parking on the street. That's like whatever. And then like, I want to say like 2 weeks ago, I was leaving work, and she was out there, and she's like standing with some dude, and they're having a conversation. They completely stopped their conversation. They turned to look at me, and they're staring at me, saying nothing to each other the entire time I walked to my car. I'm seeing them in, like, you know, my side mirror, and they're still just staring at me until I drive away. And I was like, okay. So then, like, the next time I see her, I'm just like out, and she's just walking past the house. But she takes like a lot of... Huh?
Is the same woman? Okay.
With the baby. And she's staring, like, this is important information. When they were staring at me and being, like, weird, I saw the other neighbors who are directly next door, and they're an elderly couple, and they were getting in the car and driving, and the one neighbor was like, oh my god, you see those people over there? They're so nosy. And we were just like, I was just thinking, like, wow, and then I, like, slacked my coworkers, like, apparently you guys got a nosy neighbor. I thought, like, nothing of it. So the next time I come out, and she's, like, walking past the house, and she, like, really stares at me a lot, and then she walks past the house, and then she just stops. And she often, like, pretends she's texting. And just, like, waits. And then when I get to my car, I can see she's turning around, and she's, like, staring at me. And today was the weirdest of all, where she was by herself again, and she was out there leaning against my car, like leaning full on against my car on the phone with someone. And I get to my car, and like her baby is like trying to say hello to me, and like normally I would be like,
hi baby,
what's up baby? But today I was just like, this is weird, and I don't really want to get in an altercation with this woman, because I just have, like, she just has this weird vibe. And she's leaning against my car, and as soon as I, like, get close to my car, she stops leaning and she hangs up the phone, but she's still pretending to text. And I know she's pretending because she's, like, looking, like every 2 seconds she's looking at me. And she's standing directly outside my passenger window and is staring into my car. And she, like, her baby is, like, eye level with me, and I'm just like... And I eventually drove away, and I saw her in the mirror just turning around, staring at me.
I do not feel like you are safe.
It feels weird. She's got a bad vibe. I have alerted all of my coworkers, including the ones that live there, of the situation.
Have any of them ever seen this woman besides you?
I don't know, because,
or
like,
been targeted by her?
They said, like, none... When I put it in the group Slack, and, like, nobody said anything about her... But I wonder if it's just because I leave at a different time than everyone else does. Like, I wonder if at 2 p.m. she just sort of, like, takes a walk. Because I only started noticing her when I started leaving at 2.
Maybe. I would, for a little while, for the next couple of weeks, I would have somebody walk me out to my car.
Well, I mean, like, everybody's, like, right there. Like, if I needed someone, I could just yell. They could hear me.
I guess. That whole story gives me incredibly bad vibes, and I feel like you should be safe.
Yeah, I don't know. She's really fixated on, I don't know if it's us or me, but she's always pushing a baby around, and, that always makes you feel like she's probably a nice lady, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
That could be a red herring.
Right. And, who knows? What if she, kidnapped that baby? I don't know. I'm jumping to conclusions now.
We're spiraling here.
Spiraling, but she gives me a really weird feeling, and also, when she looks at me, she's always giving me, a dirty look. She doesn't like me.
I don't know, dude.
Don't lean on my car. That's weird. Especially when I, get there and you just say nothing to me while you stare at me.
I would be really careful.
I will be. I told Nova about it, and he was like, wow.
Yeah.
So if I die...
Well...
Please investigate the creepy lady by my work. My coworkers will know.
What does she look like?
She's just a white lady. She's brunette. And she usually wears her hair in a ponytail. She's usually wearing, a tracksuit type thing. And her baby has, a little... it's a black stroller that has... Not, creepy... Not cool, spooky black, but it's just, black and gray. And it has, one of those little, umbrella thingies over it. And the baby has, just brown hair. Little boy.
The baby, I feel like, is going to be harder to describe.
Yeah, he's just a cute little boy with brown hair. And he reaches for me, which is weird.
Babies, man. They're so reachy.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my creepy story about the lady at work. I will update if there is anything. Hopefully there won't be anything.
Yeah, Jesus, I hope not. I was going to say, yeah, I look forward to your updates. No, I don't. Hopefully she just, completely fucks off and leaves you alone. Jesus.
Well, I'll let you know.
That's really weird. Okay.
The postmortems will be a creepy baby lady update time.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you guys for tuning in and listening to this postmortem episode. We can be reached on Twitter and Instagram. We also have the website, as always. We have a backlog of episodes at this point, I feel comfortable saying. We've got stuff you can go back and listen to if this is your first time. And do you have anything else you want to briefly plug? I don't feel like we have to do a full plug, but
No, just be sure that when you look for us, we're not the 13 Club, we're Ominous Glitch.
Yes.
So just search Ominous Glitch. On Instagram, it's just one word, Ominous Glitch. On Twitter, it's ominous_glitch. And we are ominousglitch.com if you are ever in doubt, and you can find all of the links to everything we do there.
Yes, and more.
Yeah, go there.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for stopping by. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.